What's good, my fellow peasants? How you all doing? At long last, the Type-0 video I have wanted to do for so long. Pez's favourite Final Fantasy. Now, I've kind of held off on doing this because I know I'm in my own little bubble of love for this game. But I think there's enough of you out there who also like Type-0. You want to see, is TypeNext going to happen? So this is going to be a misconceptions video, talking about what actually happened at the ending of Type-0. I don't think enough people really know what happened. Yeah, and I've said this before, the reason why is if you don't get the school timings quite right, or if you miss a quest or two, you kind of have to do a second playthrough that 95% of people won't do. So I don't think many people have seen the true ending and what TypeNext will be. So misconception part 2, I did part 1 and that had FFVII, 7 and oh god, what was the other one I did? What did I do? Oh, 13 I talked about Lassie. And in that I talked about who I am 99% sure will be the villain if TypeNext ever happens. Now, just before I even start talking about TypeNext, what's the likelihood that will happen, Pez? So, it's gone really quiet. We've heard absolutely nothing. We got the secret trailer ending, and that was pretty much it. The only thing that we heard after that was Tabata saying he wanted to make Type-0 its own franchise that ran alongside Final Fantasy. So that's how ambitious Tabata was. That's how much love he had for the Type-0 franchise. Now, there's a side to me that thinks he kind of just said that at the time because he'd just done Type-0. And he did. He had a lot of love and passion for it. But I kind of think, Tabata, now you've done 15. Now you're talking about doing other things away from Final Fantasy and then coming back to the franchise. There's this horrible feeling inside to me that we're never going to get to see the finale of TypeNext. That's never going to happen. And if it does, it'll be way, way off in the future. And again, by that point, will there be any interest for it? But regardless, I'm going to be that one fool who holds out for hope. So I'm going to start with talking about what was the true ending of Type-0. The class died. The pain is still raw. They sacrificed themselves, and that's usually where it ends for most people. But then there is the other ending, which is you finally see Tiz and a guy called Lean Joker. And these two, they look at everything that happened in this particular spiral. For anyone who doesn't know, Type-0 is a world where there are many, many spirals. 6 million spirals to be exact. Well, that's not to be exact. I'll put the exact number on screen now. That's how many spirals have happened in this game. And not a single one of those spirals did the outcome where the class picked not to become Lassie happened. And because of that, they sacrificed themselves. And in this entire game, it showed how many people were willing to sacrifice themselves. And that's what Tiz and Lean Joker presented to Erasure. They showed her how many people were selfless and how far humanity had come. Now, why is it important that they showed it to Erasure? Who is Erasure? She is a FFVII. And not just any FFVII, a damn powerful FFVII at that, who is locked into a battle of opening Etro's Gate. Etro's Gate, again, being this whole Fabula Nova Crystallis idea, and why it really ties into the 13 series, because Lindsay's always trying to open this gate. This is the other FFVII. So it's kind of Lindsay and Erasure, they're fighting it out, they're trying to open this gate, and Erasure has the method of finding a Gito to do that. So finding a person who is kind of like a worthy status, being like the ultimate hero, and that's what she's been trying to find, and that's why she's been using Class 0 as her little pet project, and that's why they call her Mother, because in every single spiral she takes this class and they use different weapons in each cycle. This is something really key that I'll get into later. They pick different weapons. There was one scene where I think Erasure spoke to Ace and she noticed that he'd picked cards this time as his weapon. So that's really key. They use different weapons. But in every spiral something different happens. And I'm going to take this moment just to quickly deviate off to Type-0 Online. This is another example of another spiral in the Orient's universe. And now for this, I really want to play this. This Type-0 Online actually looks really good. I know it's a mobile game, and again, it's not going to look that good, but let's be real. Type-0 was a PSP game, and it looked like a pile of shit. But yeah, I mean, you don't come to the Type-0 franchise or Type-0 games looking for good graphics, you come for good story. And from what I've seen of Type-0, this game looks great. I really hope it comes to the West. Now, quickly talking about that, is it going to come to the West? Well, they did say back in mid-2016 that they were doing a beta for China with plans to bring it to the West. So, but that was back in mid-2016. Could it happen? I need to turn the notifications off on my phone. I say that all the time, but the truth is I actually don't know how to. Please help. So Type-0 will either happen or it won't. But going on to what Lindsay... So that's Erasure's goal. What Lindsay's plan to do that is the same plan Lindsay always has, which is just to commit mass murder, mass genocide, and flood the gate with souls. And that's what the Rursa were. The Rursa came from one of Lindsay's FFVII. And that's who this guy Gala was. He was Lindsay's man on the ground. Her FFVII, or his FFVII. Well, the thing with Lindsay, I kind of said in this previous video, they always describe Lindsay in gender-neutral terms. Japanese gender neutral terms, so we don't know if it's a he or she, but so that's why we think that Erasure might not be the main FFVII. There could be someone working above Erasure. I don't know who at a guess. It could be Pulse. Pulse has an interest in opening the gate. It could even be this goddess here, which is Diva, sort of the goddess who's at the opening cinematic. We don't really know Diva's role in Type-0. All that it says in her lore is that she's an observer, that she's observing this ongoing experiment. And that's exactly what it is. It's an experiment. It's a game. It's these two gods who are trapping the people of Orient, mankind, in this never-ending spiral just so they can open the gate. Now, the way that Erasure goes about keeping the experiment going is because she's more or less losing every single time. She's never able to find a Gito in any single spiral, and that's what the Crystarium was for. That Crystarium, that eye, that book, and when you collected Phantoma, it was souls that would go to the Crystarium. Basically, they're just storing it all here, and once mankind's been wiped out, rather than flooding Etro's gate, Erasure has a failsafe where the Phantoma goes to the book, and then she can just release them back into the world at her choosing. That's kind of why she gives her children the ability to harvest Phantoma, whereas Rem and Machina don't have it. And that's the other little thing, Rem and Machina, they're the things that were different in this spiral. And that's kind of highlighted at the end. Erasure says to Tiz and Lean Joker, how many spirals has it been since I saw you guys? They hadn't been around for a while, and the ones who had more or less taken Tiz and Lean Joker's place were Rem and Machina. So that's what was different. That's what caused this spiral to not be successful, because it kind of wasn't successful. I think most people think, so the class laid down their lives and the world was saved. It's not really the case. Sure, the Rursas didn't completely destroy that world, and Machina went on to be a great man. He rebooted the world, and mankind had a great spiral then. But it doesn't change that the Rursas could still come back, the Rursas were still in play, and that Lindsay still wants to open the damn gate. So all that's really happened at the end of Type-0 is that spiral really means nothing. It's just as insignificant, really, as the other 6 million. Not insignificant, but the only thing that changed is Erasure's pulled out the game. That's literally it. That is all Type-0 really leads up to. Is the final unveil that Erasure is going to no longer play part of this game. She's going to give mankind one final spiral. She's going to release all of their souls into one final spiral, and it's up to them what happens. If they can't save it, then really Lindsay's going to win. That's where TypeNext comes in. And the true story. Oh man, look at Rem. Look at Rem all ill and sick. Man, this story was so full of emotion. I adore this game. I really do. And before I go into TypeNext, just while this scene's up, this is the other misconception that I see a lot of people make about Type-0 is Machina's a dick. He's a total dick. And there's also misconceptions about what is happening with the other classmates. The reason why Machina acts the way he does, and he's super protective over Rem. Some people are like, whoa, this guy's kind of creepy. He hasn't seen Rem since he was a child. Why is he literally infatuated with her? Machina is one of the rare characters who is, he's carrying over feelings from other cycles. He's literally carrying over emotions, and it's actually building up over each cycle that he's experiencing. And we saw this with other class members. So Kater, there was this whole thing throughout the game where Kater would go, I'm feeling deja vu all the time. I feel like I've done this before or said this before. That's because she's also remembered things from previous cycles. There was also a thing with 9. He was beginning to break the universe law that once you die, you can't remember someone. Ace is also kind of breaking the barrier. He's having dreams about things that he shouldn't know of or shouldn't see. So kind of not from another cycle, but from that cycle, things that he should have forgotten. So there's all this thing where there's cracks in the law coming through. And it's all just a throwback to previous cycles. But the cycle's over now. And that's where I think TypeNext has to take off from. I mean, it absolutely has to. If it doesn't, then, and it's just another cycle, then it's inconsequential. Because Type-0 is always the final spiral. Type-0 is, well, not the final spiral, the second to final spiral. Now, I want to talk about that last spiral. So, because Erasure is always the one trying to find Agito, she's the one who's making the children all fight. She's making academia this school where you have to learn how to fight and battle. And it's even these spirals that's creating the whole world to go into war. Because part of the experiment is the 4 crystal. You've got the white tiger crystal, the black tortoise, the blue, the Concordia one. Was it the birds, the flappy birds? You know what I mean. I'll put it up here, and then you've got the vermilion bird crystal, and it's these crystals that are keeping mankind locked into this battle. They play a role in it, and it's also what's causing the war. The whole reason why the White Tiger Empire and Sid Ollerstein are attacking is because their crystal is depleting of power. And their people are in poverty, and that's why Rubrum, who have this fully functioning vermilion bird, obviously Sid, to save his people, he has to attack. That's why he creates this entire military empire, specifically to try to save his people. And that's why Sid Ollerstein is one of my favourite Sids. He is I'd say he's an anti-villain. I was going to say anti-hero, but he did nuke Lorica. He literally nuked an entire race of people. And this was the other thing I said in my live stream. Are you aware that Gilgamesh was a lessee? In the lore, Gilgamesh is the king of Lorica, and he's a lessee. And each crystal wants to have a lessee. So bear that in mind as we continue on. So TypeNext, what did we see? Let's cut to it. There it was, Ace. He sat there with a samurai sword, arrows in him, and these red fiery arms come over and kind of regenerate him. Now, I'm convinced that my theory on this, and this is just a theory, nothing's been confirmed, but my theory is that has to be the vermilion bird. When Erasure releases the souls into one final spiral, the crystals will also be released. So the crystals won't be contained anymore. And I've got this whole theory that they're going to have to find a champion. Each single crystal will need to find a champion, and the likelihood that Ace, because he is kind of our main boy, he's the main boy of the class, let's be real. As much as I'd love to say it was Seven, or Sice, or Jack. Man, Jack for Agito. Jack's amazing. I can relate to Jack. I feel like me and him would get on well. I think that the Vermilion Bird has picked Ace to be her champion. And it makes sense because the fire and the regeneration, and then Ace busts through the ceiling, he lands, he looks super cool, he's got a katana, and that threw a lot of people. Why has he got a katana? Well, my other part of this theory is that if Erasure releases all of the souls, surely it's possible that all of the memories are also released. Because she keeps wiping them every single spiral, what if in the final spiral they have all of their memories? All of the previous cycles that they've gone through. It could be that for him having a different weapon. The reason I say it is because, like I said, they've used different weapons at different spirals, so it's not unlikely that Ace has used a samurai previously. Perhaps Ace specifically being chosen as the Vermilion Bird's champion. He gets all of his memory back. He knows all of the weapons, all of the skills he's ever fought with. I think's happened. A lot of people saw this trailer and thought, is this Ace becoming Agito? It could be that. I'm not writing it off the table. I mean, regardless, I think Ace will probably be the one to become Agito. But I don't think that's what's in the trailer. I think that's him getting picked to be a champion. And that is why, in my FF13 misconceptions video, I said that's why I'm 99% sure that TypeNext, if it happens, it will be against Lindsay. Because it only makes sense. Erasure has now pulled out the race. There's only really Lindsay still in. So Lindsay is going to try to kill mankind. In fact, it's an open invitation for her to do it, trying to destroy mankind, and this time they have to go it alone. They don't have the backup, they don't have the failsafe, they're not just going to be put into a nether spiral if they fail. This is the ultimate, this is the final Spiral. That would be such an amazing showdown. And that's the only thing that makes sense. It's the only thing that makes sense. That is what TypeNext is about. I mean, really, there can't be anything else. If TypeNext wants to stay faithful to how Type-0 left off, that's how it has to happen. Now, a lot of people have asked me, Pez, do you think the other class members will be there? Why did we only see Ace? I mean, there's absolutely no reason why the other class members can't be there in that new Spiral. In fact, every single character we ever saw, Lady Setna, Kurosame, this badass motherfucker here. In fact, Setna and this guy are very interesting in the sense that everyone gets their memory wiped on each cycle, except for these. These are l'Cie, and because they're l'Cie, I mean, you can tell Setna, she carries over memories from previous cycles. They don't have their memories wiped. That's why she's as smart as she is, and she knows what's going on with the crystals. So that would be a really good position for TypeNext to start in. These l'Cie taking a really prominent role in explaining what the rivalry is, explaining what the fight is, because really they don't know. So any character could come back, and that's super exciting. Now, I have one other little thing I want to talk about. At the end of Type-0, did anyone see the In Another Spiral? Now, this was the super cheesy, that was that Diamonds song playing, and it was super cheesy and uplifted, and it was just the class being normal kids. They were just going to band practice, and I think Queen and Sync, and they were just gossiping and talking a load of bollocks. Juice as well. 9 was pissed because Emina Hanahuru had got with Ace's brother, the guy who died at the start, and I don't blame him. I just want TypeNext to see this lady here in a bit more graphical detail. I'm telling you guys. I think I might place her as number 1. She's very, very hot. I'm saying that, guys. She's very, very hot. By the way, thank you to Y1C17JRPG for this Type-0 movie I've got going behind me. But the reason this super happy ending kind of confused me and got my brain working is because this spiral doesn't really make sense. This another spiral only happens after the entire thing of Erasure pulling out of the race happens. We then get this another spiral. So it kind of implies that this is the final spiral. Because Erasure said, I will release mankind into one final spiral. And she released it, and then this happens. So is this the final spiral? And it would kind of make sense that it was. Because although there's a side to me that this was just Square Enix making an alternative happy ending. You know, they just flippantly made an alternative happy ending. Lore-wise, it doesn't make sense. Erasure for 6 million cycles has never let the kids just be normal kids. That's the entire point of the story of the lore, is that people have never been able to be people. These kids have never been able to be kids. Humanity is locked in this war and it can't move forward. So when this scene is called In Another Spiral, it really can't be one of the previous 6 million. It would make no sense. So what it implies, if this spiral is to be taken at all seriously and not just a derpy happy ending, is that Erasure releases them. This is the happy ending. Everyone seems cheery and whatnot. And weirdly enough, I kind of hope that's true. I hope that that is how TypeNext starts. I hope it starts as just people. You know, we could be in academia, and it'd be such a gear shift just to be walking around school. Things would be normal. The characters would be normal. You could gossip. It could be quite a light-hearted opening for TypeNext. I really feel that would work. And then when Lindsay came in, and you know, the true enemies come out and the crystals have to pick their champions, that's when everything could take the serious gear shift. Now, I kind of have a bad feeling that there could be the truth in it that the only reason we're seeing Ace is because the other class members are dead. Now, I really hope Square Enix don't go down this route, but it could really happen that all of the friends get destroyed, the Ursa Empire attack, and that's when Ace will then go off and he'll be looking to avenge his classmates. That's when he'll traverse to this Japanese summit or wherever the hell this was, to get himself chosen as the Vermilion Bird. It could be an Ace-centric game because really, if what I'm saying is correct and the crystals are picking someone, I don't think there would be any reason, there would be no reason for the other class members. Azure Dragon, that's what I was trying to think of, the Flappy Flappies, the Azure Dragon. So the l'Cie in this are the biggest wildcards. I'd really like this to be a l'Cie centric game. I know some people hate the Fabula Crystallis lore of l'Cie and Fauci, but that will be a huge premise in TypeNext. This is all just pure speculation, guys. Just me speculating, theorizing what TypeNext could be about. It's not even true that the Vermilion Bird would have to pick one champion. She could, for all intents and purposes, pick the entire class. In Type-0, they'd picked many Lassie, so there's no reason that can't happen again. Just looking at it now, Vermilion Bird picked Zuyu, that cool dude. Setana picked Rem. Picked Rem in the end, or I mean, it could have picked the entire class. That's the other thing. If you picked the Lassie ending, your entire class would have got Lassie powers. So that's really hinting that it could happen in TypeNext. The White Tiger Lassies were Quinme, Nimbus, and Incognitus. The Azure Dragon Lassies were Celestia, Queen Endoria, and Soryu. The Black Tortoise was Gilgamesh. This is what I was saying. Gilgamesh has been a Lassie. I don't know why I find that so cool, but it is. There was also Enkidu. Enkidu was also a Lassie in the lore. And also Atra. I didn't even know this one. There was one called Atra, who is a Secundus Black Tortoise. Oh no, I remember this dude. No, I just clicked on his wiki link. It was the dude who was at the entrance of the Agito Tower. So not many of the Black Tortoise, the Loricans, had survived, but this dude was one of them, and he's a Lassie as well. There's a lot of big characters in play. They could all come back. I'm 99% sure, and I want the final boss to be the at long last Lindsay. Like I said, Lindsay has done so much throughout the Fabulanova Crystallis. So there it is, guys. That's my speculation. That's my thoughts. What do you guys think? Do you want TypeNext? Are you craving for it as much as me? I don't know how we can make it happen. I don't know, do we start a petition? Do we write to Tabitha? I have no idea. But Tabitha, please, if you're somehow listening, even though you don't speak English, I'm begging you, do TypeNext. TypeNext, Type 1, Type Agito. I mean, they could literally call it anything. But for the few super hardcore Type-0 fans who are left at the end of this video, go to the comment section, share all love for all things Type-0 down below. Let me know how much did you love the game. Let me know what your team was. What was your main team? Mine was 7 Sice, Jack and Cater. The most commonly asked question between Type-0 fans: what class did you run? They just dumped 14 characters on you and you just, who do I pick? Oh god, who do I pick? Struggle was real. Hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Until the next one. Goodbye.